The HOA called my treehouse a violation. Now it's a registered art installation. I'll never forget the day Karen stormed into my backyard, her clipboard clutched like a weapon, her voice shrill enough to scare the birds from the trees. "This monstrosity is a violation," she screeched, jabbing a manicured finger at the treehouse I'd spent months building for my daughter Lily. That rickety, colorful structure was our sanctuary, a testament to love and creativity. But to Karen it was an eyesore, a blight on her perfect HOA-controlled kingdom. Little did she know, her petty crusade would backfire spectacularly because I wasn't about to let her win. My name's Mia, a single mom in my mid-30s, living in a cookie-cutter suburban neighborhood called Willow Grove. It's the kind of place where every lawn is manicured to death, and the HOA's rulebook is thicker than a Bible. I moved here for Lily, my 8-year-old, who deserves a safe place to grow up. Our backyard oak tree was begging for a treehouse, so I poured my heart into building one. Patchwork panels, fairy lights, a rope ladder, the works. Lily called it her castle in the clouds. Every evening we'd climb up, read stories, and dream big. It was ours until Karen decided it wasn't. Karen was the HOA president, a self-appointed dictator with a perm as tight as her grip on power. She was the kind of woman who'd measure your grass with a ruler and send you a violation notice for a single dandelion. The neighborhood whispered about her, how she'd fined a family for a garish mailbox, how she'd reported a kid's lemonade stand for unpermitted commerce. Karen didn't just enforce rules, she weaponized them. The day she targeted my treehouse, I was outside painting its shutters when she barged in, uninvited, her floral dress clashing with her venomous sneer. "This structure violates Section 4, subsection B, no unapproved exterior modifications," she declared, as if I'd built a strip club. I tried explaining it was for Lily, but Karen cut me off. "It's ugly, it's unsafe, and it's coming down, or you're fined $500 a week." Her eyes gleamed with glee, like she lived for this. The problem wasn't just her absurd demand, it was her cruelty. The treehouse wasn't some shoddy eyesore. It was sturdy, built with my own hands and a contractor friend's help. I'd checked city codes, and it was legal. But Karen's HOA rules were a different beast, vague enough to let her bully anyone she disliked. And she disliked me. Maybe it was my beat-up hatchback or the fact that I didn't grovel at her block parties. Whatever it was, she'd made it personal. Then came the shocker. 2 nights later, I woke to a crash. Heart pounding, I ran outside to find the treehouse's rope ladder, cut and its windows smeared with red paint spelling violation. Lily sobbed, clinging to me, as I realized Karen had crossed a line. The police couldn't pin it on her. No proof. But I knew. Her smug grin at the next HOA meeting confirmed it. I was livid, but tearing her perm off wouldn't help. I needed to fight smarter. Over coffee with my neighbor Javier, a retired lawyer, I vented. "She's untouchable with that HOA rulebook," I said. Javier grinned, sipping his espresso. "Maybe not. Ever heard of a public art exemption?" Turns out our city had a loophole. Structures registered as public art were exempt from HOA oversight. If I could get the treehouse classified as an art installation, Karen's rules wouldn't apply. It was a long shot, but I was all in. I'd turn her vendetta into her downfall. First, I needed allies. I called my friend Simone, a local artist with a knack for turning junk into masterpieces. She was thrilled. "Let's make that treehouse a freaking monument," she said. We brainstormed. Mosaics, sculptures, community input, something so undeniably artistic Karen couldn't touch it. I also rallied neighbors who'd suffered under Karen's reign. There was Priya, whose garden gnomes got a violation notice, and Tom, who'd been fined for a non-compliant fence. They hated Karen as much as I did. Together, we'd make the treehouse untouchable. With a plan in place, it was time to get to work. Simone and I spent days transforming the treehouse into something Karen couldn't argue with. We sanded down the paint-smeared windows and replaced them with stained glass panels, each one a swirl of blues and golds that caught the sunlight like a kaleidoscope. Priya brought over ceramic tiles from her pottery class, and we mosaicked the walls with patterns inspired by Lily's drawings, stars, moons, and goofy dragons. Tom welded a quirky metal sculpture of a bird that perched on the roof, its wings glinting in the breeze. Neighbors stopped by, offering paint, nails, even old costume jewelry to embed in the design. It wasn't just a treehouse anymore. It was a love letter to our community, a middle finger to Karen's tyranny. The paperwork was trickier. Javier helped me file for the public art exemption, which required photos, a statement of artistic intent, and signatures from at least 10 residents. I knocked on doors expecting pushback, but people were eager to join the rebellion. "Anything to stick it to Karen," said Mrs. Delaney, who'd once gotten a fine for excessive holiday lights. By the end of the week, we had 22 signatures and a 10-page application that described the treehouse as a collaborative expression of resilience and imagination. Simone's artist friends wrote letters of support, calling it a visionary installation. I mailed it to the city, fingers crossed, and waited. Meanwhile, Karen wasn't idle. She must have sensed something was up because violation notices started arriving daily, each one more unhinged. Unauthorized paint colors, excessive ornamentation. She even claimed the treehouse was a public safety hazard because a kid might fall and sue. I ignored them, but the stress was real. Lily stopped playing in the yard, scared Karen would show up again. That's when I knew this wasn't just about saving the treehouse. It was about showing my daughter that bullies don't get to win. The city approved our application in record time, thanks to a clerk who dealt with HOA nonsense before. The treehouse was officially a registered public art installation, exempt from HOA rules. I could have stopped there, but I wanted Karen to feel the sting. So we planned a grand reveal at the neighborhood block party, an event Karen lorded over like a pageant queen. Simone suggested we turn it into a community art unveiling, complete with music and food. Priya organized a potluck, Tom rigged up speakers, and I printed flyers that read, "Celebrate Willow Grove's newest art installation." Karen wasn't invited, but we knew she'd show up. She couldn't resist a chance to complain. The day of the block party, the backyard buzzed with energy. Neighbors strung fairy lights across the trees, and kids ran around with paintbrushes, adding final touches to the treehouse. Simone emceed, her voice booming through Tom's speakers as she introduced the project. "This is for every one of us who's been told our creativity doesn't belong," she shouted, and the crowd cheered. Lily, beaming in a sparkly dress, cut a ribbon we'd tied around the tree. I looked out at the sea of faces, people who'd rallied for us, who'd shared their time and talents, and felt a lump in my throat. This was what community meant. Then came Karen, right on cue, storming through the crowd with her clipboard and a face like a thunderstorm. "This is an outrage," she shrieked, waving a violation notice. "You can't just ignore the HOA." I stepped forward, holding up the city's approval letter. "Actually, Karen, we can. It's a registered art installation now. Your rules don't apply." The crowd gasped, then erupted in applause. Karen's mouth opened and closed like a fish, her cheeks flaming. Simone handed her a flyer, smirking. "You're welcome to join the celebration." Karen tore it in half and stomped off, her heels clicking furiously. For the first time, she was powerless, and everyone saw it. Karen's defeat didn't end with her dramatic exit. Word of the treehouse's victory spread like wildfire, and Willow Grove was never quite the same. The block party stretched into the night, with neighbors dancing under the fairy lights and kids clambering into the treehouse, now a glowing symbol of defiance. Strangers snapped photos, and a local blogger dubbed it the People's Castle. I stood with Lily, her hand in mine, watching our little dream spark joy in others. For every violation notice Karen had slapped on us, we'd earned 100 smiles. The fallout for Karen was glorious. The HOA board, embarrassed by her tantrum and the treehouse's legal immunity, held an emergency meeting. Javier, who'd quietly been gathering dirt on Karen's overreach, presented a petition signed by half the neighborhood demanding her resignation. Her reign of terror, fining people for unapproved birdhouses or tasteless porch decor, had finally caught up with her. By the end of the week, Karen was out, replaced by Priya, who promised to rewrite the rulebook with fairness in mind. Karen's house went up for sale a month later, her for sale sign defaced with a single word in red paint: violation. No one admitted to it, but I had my suspicions. The treehouse became more than an art installation. It was a reminder that kindness and creativity could outshine pettiness. Neighbors started small rebellions of their own. Mrs. Delaney put up her Christmas lights in July, and Tom painted his fence neon green. just because he could. I taught Lily to honor the people who'd helped us, Simone, Javier, Priya, and countless others, by paying it forward. We hosted art workshops in the Treehouse, inviting kids to paint murals or string beads for the mosaics. Every new addition felt like a thank you to the community that had our back. Looking back, I realized Karen's cruelty had done something she never intended. It brought us together. She'd assumed the worst of me, of all of us, but her judgment only exposed her own smallness. I didn't need to vandalize her property or scream in her face to win. I'd fought with something stronger: love for my daughter, trust in my neighbors, and a stubborn belief that good people could still make a difference. That was my revenge, and it was sweeter than any fine she'd ever slapped on me. As for Lily, she's back to ruling her castle in the clouds, fearless and proud. Last week, she hung a new sign on the treehouse door: "Welcome, friends." It's a small thing, but it says everything. Karen thought she could break us, but she only made us stronger. And somewhere, in her new neighborhood, I bet she's still clutching that clipboard, wondering why her rules don't work anymore. The end.